It's the Final Word Daily, day one here at Trent Bridge. I'm Adam Collins. I've got Daniel Norcross with me here again. He's going to start the show in our time-honoured fashion by telling you about the whole day in 30 seconds, please.
England won a toss. They probably didn't want to win. They went in with the wrong team. They picked a spinner, decided to bowl. That was curious in and of itself. And New Zealand got away to a really quick start against England's bowlers, who weren't quite full enough, you might say, in length on a pitch that didn't do exactly what they hoped they were going to do. They got fortunate and they bowled quite well in patches to pick up 4 wickets. First 2 in quick succession, the second 2 in quick succession at 169 for 4. Stokes then induced an edge from Daryl Mitchell's bat, which Joe Root dropped at first slip, and thereafter it was a procession as New Zealand's bowlers calmly, carefully took England's bowlers to the cleaners to finish on 318 for 4. Bad day for England with the ball, possibly bad day with selection and choice of what to do at the toss.
Lots to unpick from today, Daniel. I mean, there's the drop catches, there's the decision to bowl at the toss, there's the picking Jack Leach, which I kind of understand why. I mean, philosophically, staying with a winning team, when you win, it was a stirring win at Lords last week, and had they dropped Leach or punted Leach having not played, I mean, it wouldn't have been crash hot. So I see what they're trying to do. I also appreciate the point you've made, though, that there's a lot of sentiment in this England team, which for the most part is a good thing. But on days like today, they can be exposed.
Well, look, it doesn't make any sense to me, because I want Jack Leach to do well, and I want Jack Leach therefore to bowl in the right conditions and on the right surfaces. And if he's not played a test match in England for the last 2 seasons,
since the Ashes of 2019, the Oval Test match in September. Think about everything that's happened since September 2019. I mean, the pandemic alone.
Well, he didn't play in the Old Trafford Test matches, which were quite tasty for spin.
Absolutely.
He did play at the Oval, but he didn't play at the Oval last year. You only get to Trent Bridge. Trent Bridge is a pitch that some of the finest spinners in the world have not prospered here for quite a long time. Ravichandran Ashwin struggled here when India played, and it seems to me that you're kind of setting Jack Leach up to fail a little bit. You're also, it's a confused picture if you're going to pick the spinner but win the toss and bowl, because what you're basically saying is you don't want the spinner to be bowling in the 4th innings. You want him bowling in the 1st and the 3rd innings.
It's kind of saying straight off the front that you want him to be a holding bowler who can keep it end tight in order to rotate the seamers, who your main weapon.
And that might be possible on a pitch that offers something, but this pitch offered nothing. He got one to turn really quite nicely past the outside edge of Daryl Mitchell's bat, but the rest of the time he wasn't able to do that, and because there wasn't enough assistance in the pitch when he bowled that ball that he just dragged down a bit every over, it was an easy single or a 4 if it was that much shorter. He didn't bowl a maiden until his 14th over, and it just doesn't make sense to me.
Against 2 guys in pretty good nick from last week, they put on 196. They've added 149 unbeaten this evening. Mitchell and Blundell batting all the way through the final session. It nearly wasn't to be. You've touched on it already, but that drop chance when Mitchell was new to the crease, I think he was on 3 at the time.
I think he'd yet to score.
Sorry,
Stokes. Yeah,
I mean that's a big moment. That's the turning point in today's day.
It's really huge, because actually there was a passage of play when the England bowlers were getting the ball to do what I think they'd had in their mind's eye would happen when they won the toss and elected to bowl. And there were about 20 overs when it really started to hoop and swing around, and Stokes had bowled a delicious ball. He was in the middle of a good spell, actually. And he bowled a delicious ball to Mitchell, drew him forward, it straightened, it took an authentic edge, and it went low to slip. We know slip catches are hard, and no one's trying to drop them. And Root has taken 153 catches in his England career. So
and some are harder than others. One that's at your knee, or maybe in his calf. They're the ones that Root. Yeah, he's got a great pair of hands.
You take those generally because you've got a greater sight on it.
Yeah.
And in fact, in mitigation, it might just have dipped a bit at the last minute, because it just reached at the bottom of his fingers. So look, maybe that's what happened, but it doesn't really matter actually, because after that, the two Kiwi batters did what they did last time. They batted with real authority, and they were determined to leave anything outside the off stump. They weren't drawn in, hardly at all. They forced the bowlers to bowl closer to them. When they did, their defence was immaculate. Very different styles. Mitchell more upright, Blundell more crouched. But they took such delight and pleasure, just as we said last week, actually, in defending the ball with the full face of the bat firmly, straight back past the bowler. And it was really good to watch.
Yeah, what was noticeable was the way they started, which was far more conservatively. You could call it that aggressive defence, as it was at Lords, but I mean, when Conway and Nichols came together, for the first 9 overs, they were going in a run of ball.
Yeah.
And they added 77 and they transferred pressure back onto England. But they were both gone in quick succession when the score was 161 and 169, mirroring what happened in the first session when Young, who was really putting the foot down, he hit Stokes for 2 boundaries in the over. And the final delivery of that over, which happened to be the 7th ball of it because there was a no ball, they had to reset the clock and go again. Caught it first slip, nice piece of bowling. But Young at that stage is 47, Latham's out next ball for 30. When Anderson bowls a half tracker and it's hit straight to Matty Potts at mid-wicket, dream come true stuff for Anderson returning to the attack. It looks like New Zealand on 2 occasions were going to throw it away. And then Mitchell and Blundell said no. And, to their credit, they're 2 players who you could easily imagine a world where Mitchell's not playing at all in the series. If Nichols didn't come down with that calf injury and COVID-19, in all probability Mitchell wouldn't have played last week at Lords. As for Blundell, you were just starting to hear it, weren't you? The pitter-patter of, is this guy the long-term solution following Watling? Is there someone who could be more productive and make more runs? I love the way he goes about it. I love the way he leaves the ball. He gets his foot outside the line of the off stump and thrusts his arms into the air. I mean, it's real purpose to the way he goes about his defence, and I think that's the foundation upon which he's made it to 67 not out overnight this evening.
And it was proper situational batting because they were aware they'd lost those 2 quick wickets and they were aware that they'd been on top and they were in danger of throwing a situation away.
Yep.
And let's face it, what we've watched in what is amounted to about 4.5 days of Test cricket in this series is both sides somehow managing to throw away winning positions. Now, at some point, one of those teams is not going to do it. At Lords, for example, England and Joe Root, especially in partnership with folks, settled that game by just saying, no, we're not going to give it. We're going to be the team that isn't going to give it away. Well, today, New Zealand nearly gave away a position of dominance, and in fact, they've clawed it back to such an extent at 318 for 4. You're struggling to see, even though England have got a pretty new ball, it's only 7 overs old, that they'll have to blow out the last 6 wickets for 50, 60 more runs.
Yeah.
I would say, realistically, to stay in a test match. They won't believe that. They'll say, look, wait till you see both sides bat.
Sure.
We can get 400, 450 on that. Because it's true, there aren't any demons in the track. It was a bit slow today as well. It surprised me. It didn't really zip through. Whether that was a function of the bowling or the pitch or a little bit of both, we'll see. Because, Matt Henry is going to get a bowl tomorrow and he kind of excites me. He gets a little bit. If there's something in there,
he'll find it.
Yeah, he'll find it. So New Zealand are massively on top. And if they shell a bunch of catches, well, maybe the pattern of the series will continue. But they are in a very strong position now to make, not settle the match, but get such a long way ahead in the next day.
The Hall of Fame, Daniel, serious stuff put to one side. Thanks to Woodstock Cricket, TFW20, woodstockcricket.co.uk. Get yourself one of the best cricket bats in the world. We're both getting one in the mail right now.
I can't wait.
Can't wait to get home. Can't wait to get home.
And some pads as well, I believe.
The whole bit.
The whole
bit.
kit and caboodle.
I am. My obvious nomination is poor old Susan in
Susan.
front of the pavilion there. Daryl Mitchell takes Leach downtown for a 6 over long on, I think it was, and the ball landed in her pint.
Literally in the pint.
I love the way that Matty Potts gesticulated to the umpire, saying, "It's in there. It's in there."
I thought he was demanding that someone go and get her a new pint. I mean, he wasn't actually signalling the 6. He was going, a pint's gone. This is terrible.
And I'm reliably informed
that.
she also broke her finger, Susan.
I've heard that. I don't know how they found out so quick.
Yeah.
Do they have on-site X-ray?
Maybe. Anyway, so Susan goes in just for the sheer enjoyment of that moment on an otherwise day that sort of drifted. It wasn't sort of a madcap at any particular stage. It was
went on 4 and over-ish though, didn't it?
That's true.
So,
the run rate did, but
tempo.
I mean, it wasn't like it was last week at Lords when it was so frenetic. You could have put a dozen things in the Hall of Fame. But there's me. Susan's in there for me.
Okay, well, yeah, I think you're dead right. For me, I want to add Joe Root's bouncer because he came on to bowl. Joe Root does this thing when the right-handers are in. He's got an unfortunately dismal average against right-handers, and especially in the first innings, which is not unusual for a part-time off-spinner. So he's taken to coming round the wicket, and it was a thrilling over. Daryl Mitchell first went for a reverse sweep.
And nailed it.
Then he went for a reverse sweep, and it so close to hitting the toe of the bat and actually the top of the glove. Got really close.
Got reviewed.
Hit the sweatband, got reviewed. And it was very unusual because Mitchell does do this. He's an interesting player. You watch him for 3 hours, and for 2 hours and 57 minutes, he's completely immaculate. But he will have a mad 3 minutes, and this was his mad 3 minutes in this game. He did it against Anderson at Lords today. And Root got quite smart. He saw Mitchell was ticking, and he advanced, and then Root bowled a serious bouncer. And Mitchell knows Ben Folkes behind.
Oh yeah,
he's a serious keeper. So he had to get better at it, but he was advanced down the pitch. So he's like forehand smashing it, and it came within 2 yards of carrying to mid-on. And had Root got him out with that would have been spectacular. I mean, it's a spectacular moment in the game anyway. But yeah, that's my Hall of Famer.
All right, I think that's it for us. The Final Word Daily, Adam Collins and Daniel Norcross. If you like what we do, patreon.com/The Final Word. We'll be back to do it again tomorrow. In fact, it'll be Daniel with Jeff tomorrow. I'm doing something else, but I'll be back on day 3, and that game will continue apace. Good night from Trent Bridge.
Good night.